and greetings. I'm always saying something silly before we go on. Peace and greetings to the family. We are going into the Shabbat, so thank you for joining us for Shema. First, giving thanks to the Most High for allowing us to come through this last 6 days. Yeah. We had some crazy times, y'all. So we're gonna, when the seventh day comes, it's really good to make sure that we rest up. So everybody's a little late. That's interesting. Yeah, what's happening? What's happening, y'all? So we're gonna get started anyway. Maybe because did we start late? Oh, there they are. There they are. You all came at the same time.
Remember the delay.
Oh,
Peace,
yeah,
peace.
that's right. Okay. Greetings, everyone. So I'll open the space again. Give thanks to the Most High. Also, give thanks to Chief Yuya for allowing us this space and time on Shema to do this and deliberate amongst our community and our Aelites, as well as those of you who would become future Aelites and community members. And then give thanks to all of you watching. Greetings, Mishpacha. Yeah. Erev Tov. Good evening. Good evening. So before we get started, Ema Precious, will you grace us with the prayer?
Absolutely. Greetings. This book is not to be read only once. Read the words of this book of knowledge and wisdom out loud. Discuss the convictions of this work with your Anu brothers and sisters. Share this information with your people. This publication should be read daily. Every line in this book can be taken out of context and studied on the strength of its own potential. The truth is to be deliberated. The truth is to be deliberated.
Give thanks for that. I'm going to just quickly shout out everybody who's come in the chat. Greetings, Sister Kashia. Greetings, Chief Yuya. Thank you for joining us. Aquia, Brother Lowe. Thank you for joining us. He says, my name is Greetings, Maya. Who else did I miss? The greetings, Sister Munira. Manira. No, Ahok Manira, Munira. I just messed that all up. I'm sorry. Greetings, Mishpacha. How about that? So, we're still in family. I told you it was a long chapter, but there's a lot to go over. So, previously on Shema, the brothers talked about the last step in betrothal, which is thinking about the spirit and the character. These are really important. So, if you want to, check that out, you can go definitely to the age. Oh my goodness. I think a cat took my tongue. You can go to the Anu Life Global YouTube page to look at all of the past Shema videos. I know they're there because I just organized this Donnie. So you can go and check them out. They're in order on the Shema Anu playlist. So this evening, we are talking about marriage. Marriage is what brings us here today. I've been waiting for a chance to do that. Marriage. Shalom, top tier speakers, and Brother Antonio, Brother Cruz. Shalom, everyone. So, what about marriage? We're talking about marriage, our new culture and point of view. Yes. So, Ima Precious, will you please do the first reading on marriage?
Sure. Matrimony is the third step in a sacred union after courtship and betrothal. Before the consummation of the actual union, there is a marital contract that must be presented to the woman joining the household of the man. The contract should have been presented and discussed during phase 3 of the courtship. The man and woman are both to sign the marital contract in the presence of a witness. Only one witness is necessary to confirm the marital contract.
Marriage, the requested arrangement. So, let's start with that first sentence. Matrimony is the third step in a sacred union after courtship and So what I focused on when I read this was that part about sacred union, right? It is secret, and it's that union, it's coming together. Sacred and secret. It's also something that should, be kept. It's special. It's not just like any old ceremony or any old event that happens, on any old regular day. It's something to be cherished, right? And respected. Um, when we talk about sacred union, I also thought about, because it's what follows betrothal, courtship and betrothal. It reminded me of two sh- two shishis ago,
Mhm.
and we were talking about betrothal and the betrothal ceremony, right? And so I wanted to, and that whole deliberation was also about that being sacred, a ceremony being sacred. So this is the same thing. It's moving to that third step. And so I just wanted to read a quote, because it's about union. Union is also coming together. It's to mate, to match. So I wanted to read a quote, and I quote from Chief Yuya, talking about the sacred union during our chat 2 shishis ago when we did betrothal. August 13th, probably around 7 p.m. I'm not sure. A concise courtship ceremony with a small few, a little food. We make beast and get to work. Let's not turn sacred union opportunities to a Disney fairy tale. It's a time of urgency. So literally, when I read that, it was, it reminded me of that comment. Um, things when we're deliberating, that's the whole point. The truth is to be deliberated, and they stick with you. There are things that we say to one another when we're deliberating this work and we're learning and we're growing, and they stick. Sometimes we're wrong, but the things that are right should stick. So that's what I have to share about matrimony being the third step in that sacred union, and something that is sacred is also.
Yeah. Yeah, what came to mind when just looking at the word matrimony is like going back and just defining it a little, and just understanding that it's a formal ritual, right? So it's a formal practice or process of coming into union. Um, and even the idea of sacrament, or something being very sacred, came to mind as you touched on. And the idea of like imparting grace, or this being something that you're entering into with grace, was also kind of where my thoughts went, um, which then lends itself to, what would be more graceful, um, just a select few, and being about the mission of coming together, or that other thing that is what a wedding is considered, because I know we're often ebbing and flowing between our new culture and
Mhm.
and everything else. So yeah.
Mhm. I wanted to add, I forgot. We off camera. So years ago, like in a long, long time ago days, I remember, like, at least on several occasions, and several could mean anywhere from three to whatever. Um, I heard people say, like, well, marriage isn't one of the sacraments, right? And to me, like, sacrament is close to sacred. And I would think, like, are you like keeping score from some rule book? And where's this rule book? And who made that rule? Who made these lists of sacraments? And if there is, why wouldn't marriage be one of them, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't marriage be something that's considered sacred or something that's cherished? And I realized, looking back, all of these people were divorced, so they had to make, reasons and excuses why, you know their divorce was, I guess, sanctioned or appropriate. I don't know. And it's like, people will split, and we did go over the reasons why that could happen, or the guidelines on whether the grounds for that would happen. We went over, I think we did, or it's coming. We go over that in our new, but clearly these people were not our new. And I just thought it really interesting that people would make exceptions for something that it clearly is something that is outlined as sacred. But because someone else decided to make all the other attachments and addendums, you're going by that and not what the law says. I just thought that was interesting.
Right. You know, and I know we'll get into it in greater detail as we go through the sentences, but I think even the idea of what the contract is, right? So you're signing a license to be wed, and normally there is no contract. And if there is, it's probably discussion of a prenuptial agreement, right? That's the only contract that we're even remotely familiar with entering into when you talk about a union. So there's a big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read the next line. Before the consummation of the actual union, there is a marital contract that must be presented to the woman joining the household of the man. So I really appreciate that this line is speaking to what happens before the consummation of the actual union. So there's an agreement, and the agreement was actually discussed in advance of this particular day. But you're entering into something. You're not falling into something. You're not madly jumping into something. There's a conscious decision to enter into agreement, and that's what I pulled from that line.
Mm-hmm. I just want to go to the chat really quick. Brother Antonio says, yeah, justify, then testify. Yes, Chief, we got receipts. It's on the internet. Yeah, we got receipts.
Time and date.
Chief Yuya says, a sacrament is something that is ordained by Yahushua. Union was the very first state of Adam's existence. After the splitting, there was an ordinance to multiply. Yep. Be fruitful and multiply. We are here to mirror you, not to be alone. So, yeah, those people were making excuses, but hey, they out in the
We're
world.
not doing that. We're not doing that.
Next, so back to the contract. I thought, I thought that was also interesting. That we talk about contract, right? Because when you think about marriage, as we know here, when people get married and there's all the paperwork and they have to sign, it's like it's like it's like this whole process, right? And so it made me think about what's in your marital contract, right? So that's the first question. What is in your marital contract? So feel free to put it in the ticker, y'all, and we'll read them all. But that's the first question of the evening. Like, what's in your marital contract? It's interesting. Yeah, it has to happen before consummation of the union. So that's before you make beast. You have to have your marital contract. I'm just saying. Have that marital contract. There should be an understanding, a clear understanding, overstanding of what is in the contract and what is expected to come out of that union and the party who is entering into that union.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the contract, I know many are going to share. Well, I'll hold it. I'll wait until we get some comments. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So this contract should have been presented and discussed during phase 3 of the courtship. So just so happens that we were the ones who talked about phase 3 of the courtship. It was us. So what was that? So first it's like getting permission to wed. Those are all the things that you have to do. And what was phase 3? That was all of those real world discussions, what your living arrangements, if you're going to be in a communal household or your own, physical space, what you're expected to contribute, what is your not positioning, that's not the word I'm looking for, but what's your job, like what you're bringing into the household that is helping to forward and build up the nation. You should have that
Like the
in
working
stage 3.
plan. Yeah.
Yes, your work plan. That's good. And the deliverables that are expected. Sorry, that's corporate. It's very corporate, but that's the best. Yes. Do y'all
Yes.
recycle? We did not recycle that question. We didn't ask that. Did we ask that before?
I don't
I think so.
I don't think so. And if no, I don't know. I know the sun is like doing something weird. Look, I'm like doing something weird over here. I don't know if you notice it.
It's lines, maybe. I
No,
don't
no.
know if we recycled that. We did recycle that. I'm gonna check the receipts. In the meantime, y'all question.
So you know, and you know what? And even if we did, which I don't recall, but if we did recycle it, it would be interesting to see how, if you recall answering this before, how your response would differ, because we're definitely several paragraphs in and into a new theme, being marriage. So when you think about your marital contract and what the contents would be, what would that look like? For example, how do you see your role? And I know, Sister Deidre, you touched on a few components of how one might be able to define their role. But at this point, you would have gotten a good sense of how your master runs his homestead. So you have a better sense of what your role would be within that, or how you could enhance something, because at this point you would have discussed that already.
Right.
What you would contribute that may perhaps is not there. That is a skill set that only you possess within that home. So just a few things for the sisters to think about. Yeah.
Maybe we did. I remember like some answers
Oh.
about. No, it was like, what do you expect from your potential mate? I think that was the question, which I guess is okay. Fine,
We may be wrong if we're being
fine,
honest, just to be on the safe side. Yeah.
fine. So Sister Aquia says, so marriage is the mirroring of Adam's union existence or the image of Yahweh's question. And you disappeared, precious. And Chief Yuya says, yes, Sister Aquia, the world calls it marriage. But rejoining is the emulation of the life of heaven. Earthly existence is death. Heavenly existence is life. The sun is only giving you a norm. Oh, that's
What does he say? I can't see the comments, so
the sun is giving you a normal base thing. Like you're in the shadows and you gotta step out with the like, yeah.
yeah, I tried to adjust it. It was an epic fail. My apologies. Yeah.
Okay. In my marital contract, I expect to see my roles and responsibilities. What are the grounds of termination? Good. Also, if it will be reviewed after a certain amount of time. We did that. We had this
Yes.
conversation. I don't
We
know if
did
that was
this.
a question.
Yeah. Yeah. We
did.
did, because we did discuss terms, right?
We
And
did.
just the fact that the contract is not necessarily forever, ever, ever, ever. It's actually, similar to how most contracts are. There are terms and stipulations therein. Um, so yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's okay. We got some new people so they can answer the question. Um, so moving on to the next sentence.
Do you want me to?
That's you.
All right. Uh, the contract should be presented and discussed during phase 3. You covered that, right? The
Yeah.
man and woman are both to sign the marital contract in the presence of a witness. So when you think about the coming into an agreement, right? There's the idea of signature, and what that what that denotes, right? So that's when you're actually contractually bound. But is it the signature that binds you, or is it the desire to be committed, right? Um, that's my a personal, just something for us to explore together. Is it the signature that binds you, right? Because in any other contract, you signing is it. Um, so let's see. How do I even get into this? How see like that signature is almost like the sacred act, because you can say, yes, I want this, I want this, I want this, as much as you like, but if you get all the way to this particular day and you don't sign, then you are not wed. You are not in a union. There has been there will be no consummation of anything. So that's how significant our signature is, and you signing on that dotted line. I think we oftentimes take signing documents, contracts for granted. Um, yeah, you know, I think the idea of of the signature, and also of there being, a witness, just one witness, really speaks volumes to, yeah, it just does. I'll leave it there.
Mm-hmm. What was it that you wanted to say? You said you'll wait till we get responses.
I think I touched on it with the contract piece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She said marital contracts vary based on dynamic between you two. Truthfully, your commitment to your walk in the truth is a marital contract between you and Yahweh Shai. That already comes with regulations. Akuya said that was a good question about the signature. I was kind of thinking about that. Kashia says it is a covenant with the creator that binds both. I was thinking that, like, what if you don't have a signature? What about, that, yeah, the covenant you have with the creator, or that connection, right? That inner to the outer, right? That pull, that love, respect, and discipline. Is that not sufficient? Maybe that's a question for the chat. I don't know.
Yeah. And when I think about signature, for some reason, what comes to mind is like the idea of signing in blood, right? There's something about, even though it's ink, but there's something about you putting your actual representation of how you put your name down on that piece of paper that symbolizes something. But of course, I love to hear what the chat has to say, because there is, of course, the connection and union with Yah, right? Your covenant with the Creator.
The real question was, what if you don't? Well, the first question was, does the signature, and you say it, that was your question. I don't want to butcher it.
Are you in a contract if you have not signed, if you haven't signed, right? So does your signature denote the entry into the contract, the union?
Right.
Or is it
And
your
then yeah. And then I asked, like, is it not the bond, the love, respect, and discipline, that pull, that inner to outer pull with one another, that not count? That was my question. Just really quick. Chief says, so it could be as simple as, don't fry my mushrooms in canola.
So anything. So I guess that's the point. Anything can go in the contract.
It could be as simple as, don't fry my mushrooms in canola, and I won't dress you in pop. You shouldn't have to itemize every element of a righteous union. You're submitted to the law of Yah.
Right.
The shedding of blood is what seals the contract covenant.
Oh, well, interesting.
So how would you?
That's interesting.
Are we doing finger pricks? Like what? How?
No, but I'm thinking coitus. But I'm thinking, right, but I'm like, but I don't want to have questions here,
Nope,
but
I
I
think that was
do.
the answer. I think that was the answer.
Yes, right, right. Okay,
Aquia says, I was thinking the words you speak seals the deal. Word is bond, right?
right.
So these are all interesting.
Perspectives. Yeah,
If you don't sign, okay, well, can it be this? Can it be that? Da, da, da. There's blood. Maybe there's the word. Maybe there's the respect and discipline. I don't know. I don't know.
right. Yeah, there are so many facets, right? Because your word should be your bonds, right? And you've agreed to this, like whatever's in the contract, you've already discussed and explored and agreed to. So technically, what does the signature denote? You know,
Right.
that is the question. Because if yeah, the shedding of blood is follows, then
And when you do the signature, what are you using? Are you using the name that you are in Babylon, or are you using
right,
a new name that may have been given to you
right,
by mate?
right. And that's the
Ding!
question. What name? Right. What name? Oh,
What
that's
name?
another thing. And would that be in your contract, right? Your actual name.
We got questions. See,
We got lots of questions and no answers. We got to
this
come
is
with more
the
answers
reading.
in the future.
We're
Just
not. We're not teaching. This is a reading. We're deliberating.
that's right.
So we
That's
come
right.
up with the answers as we do. And that's why women are to be pure and virginal, the bloodshed. Yep.
I got
That's
that.
I don't
I
think you were
figured
wrong
that.
when you said coitus. I'm like, you're not wrong.
Right. I was
Not
like,
wrong.
okay.
I'm like, cause I'm like, what are you gonna do? Fingerprint? Like,
I know. I knew it wasn't that, but I'm like, that don't apply to the
you know.
non-virgins. So I didn't know. I didn't know what happens then. So you better sign.
Mm-hmm. Um, Chief says, but word is Yahweh. So what bonds you to each other is the becoming one in Yahweh. That's one of the reasons for purity, Sister Kashia. Yep. What if blood can no longer be shed? I think we just went over that. we
Right.
20,
Yeah.
20
I think
seconds
you have to
behind.
sign, right?
That.
Like that's because there is no blood on
Yeah,
the
and I hope you're not talking about like if you ain't got no blood in your veins, you did like so. I mean, yeah,
No, I think we're clear.
for your
Yeah.
family, and we definitely ain't signing nothing. Chief says you would use your clan name. Remember, the contract is between families, right? So,
Okay. So you're using your I'm sorry,
clan.
it's
So does your name,
surname.
for this is that instance when you young woman who's grown up within Anu. So what does that mean for women who are converting to Anu? What name do you use? Do you use your
Mhm.
Babylonian name, or do you use the name given to you, or name that would be given to you by your mate, or does it become your name after the ceremony, the union? That's a
Yeah,
conclusion.
I wonder if you would only get your name after the union, right? Because you're coming under that man's headship after you've signed. So you're signing as Precious S, but you're leaving as whatever your name is, right? As given to you via Yah through your master. That
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. I wonder.
I think so. Okay, so the last line is only one witness is necessary to confirm the marital contract. That's interesting because in Babylon it's two, right? It's two, two. Right. I was a witness, but I'm only me. I wasn't
It's two.
the other
Yes.
person. I know. Like I know where I'm supposed to sign. Um, and you know what? Funny story. I was witness, and I signed where the officiant. They had to go get a new contract.
It's like, y'all married.
I married some people, y'all.
That's me.
I had to go down to wherever.
Well, you know what? For this particular line, the idea of there only needing to be one witness took me back to Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
There were the two, right? And yeah, well, no, the Elohim. Right, yeah. I know. Now I'm kind of like, well, maybe not. But I mean, Yah created man, then woman. And so when you think about the need for, a multiple witnesses, really you only need one. Particularly, as some of the sisters and brothers said, if your word is your bond, and if you're really committing and honoring, the sacred vows that you're taking.
Right. Which reminds me, I do have another question for everybody. Who is your contract with? And we kind of answered it, but I'm very curious to answer that. Who is your contract with? Like, because people get married all the time in Babylon, but and the contract, we was like, we just talked about contract. It goes, there's two signatures on it. So who's the contract really with? Yes, it's a real. Oh wait, we're 20 minutes, 20 seconds behind. It's like a trick question. Who's your contract with?
It is not a trick question, and we should all know who the contract is with, people. Dude, she's like the easy one over here. Wait, I gotta put it the right way.
I wanted to see.
You're over here.
No, we're not doing it. It was real. Okay. I'm gonna say. I'll just say it. We won't wait for the answers. Your contract should only be with Yah. That's who we came in with. That's who the contract should be with. Yes, the two who are going into union are, but they are signing the contract with Yah. When people get married all the time, they sign a contract, but there's all these signatures on it. And then at the bottom, it's like, that to be, I don't know if that to be notarized, but all these people got to be on it. And at the end of the day, it says like the state recognizes. And when we do that, it's like almost, it's blasphemy, it's sinning. You're signing a contract outside of what you were divinely supposed to be here to do.
Right.
I guess it wasn't a trick question. It wasn't. Okay, fine. It wasn't a real question.
It wasn't a real question.
It was a real question.
It was real. It wasn't tricky. Yes, the covenant is with the contract is with the Creator, right? You're here on contract, so you're here to fulfill, your purpose. And as I said earlier, we are not made to be alone, right? And so it's all a part of the divine contract.
So going back to the question about names, Chief says, does Yah call you Precious S or just Precious? But again, you are representing your claim.
Yeah, doesn't call me Precious S. No, definitely doesn't.
Can't ring some people. You can't bring the wedding. I signing the license plastered on. Oh no, no. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. I honestly don't know what happened. It's the writing is big, like, and then I just saw an empty space. I was like, me.
You didn't have glasses.
It wasn't on purpose. The contract between families, but it's authorized by the community. Brother Cruz said you would be leaving as Precious house under Anu.
Right.
And then, yeah.
But I could
Um,
also be leaving with a different first name as well, is what I
yeah,
imagine.
that's what I
Right?
was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand the clan name, but I was really the question was like the first name.
Right. Yeah.
Um, that was really what the question was.
Yeah. It could very well remain, or perhaps it will not. And
Mhm. Yeah,
I can't see the chat, so I'm going to have to
I'll
be.
read it. It says, "Why would the community authorize the contract of the vow made with Yah?" If, I guess that's if. Why would the community authorize the contract if the vow is made with Yah? Chief says, "Precious, you need to get on these chats. These just missing answers and butchering sentences. Plus, someone has
Okay,
bangles.
so you know what?
That's not my bangles.
I apologize. I didn't have the chat open. I'm in a different. No, Deidre, come on.
I've
Read
been relieved of my duties. Go ahead."
I'm gonna have to open it. Okay. Yes, Chief. Let me get in the chat. I have to open it up on a different thing. I hope you don't hear it.
Okay, well, I'll get these last two. What my expectations are of the woman. What? Oh, so Brother Cruz is answering what's in his,
Okay.
what his expectations are of the woman, what his role will be to the homestead, and what her. Brother Lowe says, "Yeah, I would want a clause for the marriage to come under review after a period of time." What's that period of time? If y'all would like to share. Um, the director has spoken. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. I'm done.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm in. So, and I'm trying to go through to see. Okay, I don't know if you read this one where Chief is talking about blood. Okay, so he says no blood equals it is because you've already made a contract. 9 times out of 10, you are still in the contract. Outside of that, it becomes all symbolic. No, promiscuous people rarely truly pair or bond. So that's one of the
I
that
missed. I did.
no. And I wasn't even going to say that. I was going to touch on the idea of still being in a contract, right? And I know, well, Chief already said it. A lot of times we are contractually obligated, even to systems. I know we may think of past mates or people we've been intimate with. But in some instances, in a lot of instances, in my reality, I was wedded to Western culture, right? To get a job and buy these things and do this stuff and accomplish these goals. And that was who my contract was with.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes a lot of sense because having that perspective made it very challenging for me to connect. And I would imagine, even if I had the opportunity then to connect with a righteous mate, I probably would not have been successful because I was already mated, right, to the culture and that I committed myself to. So give thanks for that, Chief.
Mm-hmm. Who's your daddy? Mm-hmm.
Right, it's
Um.
the person who signs those checks. That's really what you have to ask yourself with that.
Yeah. You know, you talking. It made me think of the comment about promise. Sex is marriage, and I think that has come up several times during the reading, during Sabbat calls, during different presentations. Sex is marriage. So then we also have to think, how many times have you been married? You know, how many times? Like we have to think that. And have you truly been released from that contract before you go entering into another? So I wanted to put that out there. Um, uh, there's this comment.
Okay, so Chief says something else. The the promise covenant is with Yah. The vow is with the man. The community is the is the component of the nation. Our contracts are based around familial / communal culture. We are not lone Israelites. So you see that? Like the way it read was like ripples, like you throw, like the union is the pebble that you throw in, but then there are all these ripples. That, at least that's how my geeky brain read it.
I
There's all these layers that are impacted.
when you were reading it and I was following along, I
It's so silly.
I thought like Trinity, right?
Mm,
Yah, man, and the people. So that's what I heard.
yeah,
Trinity.
give thanks. So, okay. Um, okay, so Loa posed the question. Yeah, I guess he was being silly. Okay. So then Brother Antonio says, my contract would include roles of us both, a time period for the union to be reviewed. It honestly depends on what Chief said about the dynamic between me and the woman in question. Yeah, I'm not sure what that last part is referencing. Probably something previously in the chat.
Oh, Chief said it depends on the two. When we talked about like what's in your contract and we talked about, like stage 3, like a lot of that should have happened in stage 3. He said it depends on the two of you and like that dynamic.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Some people's contract does say yes to the dress, but not over here. Sorry.
Oh, I'm like, really? I don't think so. Yeah, no, this is a whole different sort of contract, and one that I think tends to, I imagine, there really should be no surprises because we're authentically right. Let's kind of double back a little bit. During courtship, you're making a commitment to get to know a fellow Anu brother or sister, right? And then you're deliberating. So you're bringing everything to the court and you're authentically presenting yourself so that by the time a decision is made to pursue commitment to entering into a contract, we each know, well, the man knows what he's working with, what kind of soil he's working with, what sort of nutrients it may require, what sort of how just what it needs across the board, right? I can't do the agriculture analogies because it's like sun, water, dirt,
pH
not
balance
right. And I know
to
you know
hold
that
water.
potential to hold. We learned that potential to hold water.
Hold water because women are vessels, right? We're
Yeah.
water, we're vessels, and if we're those vessels, we're supposed to be able to be like receptacles of water. And if you can't receive, that means your pH balance is off. You don't have the potential to hold water, or maybe the water hold is stagnant, and it's now murky. So
Yeah.
now we have to see, can a lotus come out of that? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, the soil that a lotus is rooted in is nutrient dense.
So
So
there you go. So the answer is no.
that would be a negatory. Okay,
Next.
so it says the dynamic. Is this person going to run your house? Is this person someone you are having children with primarily? Is this someone is this someone is this someone joint your house to be oh, okay. Is this someone going to join your house to be covered, but there is still an option for intimacy? So that those are a few considerations that one may have to make, right? Sister Kashia says, like and share. Please like, please share. And Brother Antonio says, I keep thinking of it in terms of human resources for the homestead. Could you elaborate? I think that's an interesting idea. Human resources for the homestead. because we as the women, we are the economy. So, or perhaps, I mean, Brother Antonio, if you could elaborate, but I know we and I knew we understand how we are the human resource. So I just want everybody else to get some of that. Give thanks. And Sister Ima Akuya says, oh, you really drove that in, Ima. Good breakdown. Give thanks. Okay. Okay. So while we wait for more comments to come in, I'm 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 still just thinking about the idea of the signature. And I know Chief broke down, what the signature is for versus, what the contract, symbolizes. But I guess I imagine, since the contract is being presented to the woman, if during that union ceremony, if she then decides, well, no, I don't want to sign the contract, does that nullify everything? Or is there an opportunity? Look at your face, DJ.
Like, yeah, like who does that?
No, but I guess I'm only asking because
Okay, runaway bride.
no. Yeah, but I guess I'm just wondering if it isn't just the signing of the contract, right? Because that I'm kind of looking at it from, okay, it isn't this linear process. So if it isn't this linear process, then can you make that verbal commitment? Can you make that commitment to under Yah, right? But not necessarily sign the contract. I would imagine no, but I don't know. It's just something that crossed my mind. Not that I want to do that, but okay. All right, so we have a few more responses. So Sister Kashia says, am I correct? Woman equals resource and man equals manages those resources. I think that sounds correct. And then she says, if you are thinking every situation is Cliff and Claire or J and B, you are missing it. You complicate it by having one concept. We sex, we're together, but you can't do everything with everyone. You can't do everything with everyone. So you're not going to be Cliff and Claire. And even if you think you are going to be Cliff and Claire, you see what happened in the end, right? She was like, go Bill, that's what's up. You're fired. Right? So
I
that's
think
what happened.
real clear. I think that was Camille.
No, that was no. That was Felicia Rashad who said, go Bill Cosby. I'm glad he was released and then got fired. Oh yeah. That was
Oh, I was totally following. I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
yeah. So I was just drawing a contrast
Oh,
there.
I see.
I'm the one who doesn't watch TV, so how do you not know that, right? Okay. So then it says, Sister Kashia says, shouldn't there be an understanding during courtship and betrothal stages? Okay. And so when the contract comes, it is already known. Right. So I do understand that when the contract, at least my understanding is that the contract is mutually agreed upon, right, in advance of the union.
Right.
I guess I was asking more of a let's explore this path if the contract isn't the union, like as a whole, because we were saying the contract is truly with Yah. So I was just kind of, I don't know, throwing something else out there. Um, Brother Antonio says human resources determines who comes into the business/homestead based on what roles the business needs to fill. Does it need an accountant, a person to raise/teach the children, etc.?
Mm-hmm.
Sister Kashia says, we are to get to know one another and the man's plan in the stages before the marital contract. Brother Antonio says, you base your contract on what you are looking to bring that person what you are looking to bring. And I guess what that person is going to bring into the homestead, what they're going to do. Oh, it was Felicia. Yeah, it was Felicia Rashad. Thank you, Kashia. And Chief says, Mr. Rashad did the right thing. Ride or die. You stand with your man no matter what. That's what I'm
That's what
saying.
I thought.
So I'm just saying it wasn't a bed of roses all the time. So even if you are thinking you're Cliff and Claire, it gets bumpy. It gets bumpy. And and I think it's all in the other people's music, J and B. So with that, yeah, think about your contract, what it should entail, and for the women, what you're bringing, right, and how easy your mate should be able to recognize what you're bringing. Because it shouldn't be hidden. He shouldn't have to like go digging for it. You should actually be presenting your whole self, uh, yes, before him. You got something over there?
I was just saying I liked Brother Antonio's comment with the resource, his elaboration on the human resources, because when he said it, I was like, hey, you need staffing, personnel, you need to staff up the place. Yeah. Um, yeah. I guess so. The man would be the CEO, president and CEO. Okay, now you need to.
He's the head.
Hmm. And you know what? You also like. I wonder, like, not even I wonder. I think I know the answer. Who else is in human resources? So when you join the homestead, who else goes into human resources? How does human resources function? And is the president and CEO expected to also be the head of human resources? Are they the head? Is he the head of human resources, but also has a director of human resources that manages? And I guess that person that kind of manages who's coming in, or at least helping with who's coming in.
Right, right, right. So you're kind of almost leaving a little bit of breadcrumbs or a little path for the idea that another consort could be, right, in that human resources arena, doing some component of, since we're in HR world, vetting, right, and
And
validating
recruiting.
and recruiting, right, you did say that, and recruiting. So that is an interesting concept. um yeah, let's see, there are a few more things here. Okay. Yes, Sister Kashia, but the chief says, sorry. Yes, Sister Kashia, but this is to a degree. A righteous woman can manage resources. What she needs and he wants will vary. Again, it may be as simple as a sexual or platonic relationship only. So there you have it. So when Chief was referring to the Claire and Cliff and the J and B, I think that many of us have this idea that I'm going to be cooking and having sex and cleaning and working for and having children with and doing all these things, and we're living together and we're together all the time, and that's not necessarily how it will be, or even how I'm going to say perhaps even how it would be best. So it's really the contract, it seems, would lay out exactly what it will look like for you. um, and I do recall when we spoke about contracts before, Chief was made a reference in the chat to duration and frequency of revisiting a contract. And he even touched on the idea of a particular woman having a certain role in his homestead, and perhaps that role shifts or evolves or changes in some way when that contract is being reviewed for, dare I say, renewal. So I, I guess I'm using it as an example to just speak to how fluid the process could very well be. It's whatever you make it, right? which is
Yeah.
actually an exciting opportunity if you think about it. The contract seems like the time where you want to be known by your mate so that you can really be accessed and utilized effectively.
The thought just ran out of my
Ah,
um yeah, it may not be like the part, like I think everything that you said, yeah, it is that, like depending on what it is, depending on what your contract is, like it may be I'm gonna have babies, I'm gonna be and I'm gonna keep the house right, and I'm gonna put it up. It's gonna be that and then some, right? But one of the things you said is like, and we're always gonna be together. And like, yeah, you're mated. But does that mean that you'll always physically be in one another's spaces? Probably not, because if he is nation building, he can't be sitting up in the house all the time. You know, um, we're working. We're all working. It's a time of urgency, as I read before. You know, so it's not gonna be this like, we're always together, and we finish each other's sentences. Like it may have to be like
so,
transmitting
Sister
emails
Deidre,
and relaying business deals things.
I think the audio is a little wonky. Do you hear me clearly?
There's like, it sounds like somebody's chewing.
Yeah, yeah. I think somehow in the middle of you talking, the audio got a little weird.
Oh.
I wonder if it's showing up like that on YouTube.
Um, yes, it is.
Showing up like that.
It is. Maybe mute out and come back.
Say it again.
Mute out and come back.
Okay, you try to mute out because I think I'm clear, but you're not coming in clear. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll read some of the comments in the chat because something happened with your audio. So just double check it. So it said, so Chief Yuya says, if you have made it to a successful, progressive Moorish man, it will be bumpy. There is no getting around it. We are still in an environment hostile to masculinity. Yeah, and that's very true. And particularly Moorish masculinity. He said the head of human resources is still given an organizational plan and vision to properly manage those human resources, as is every executive. Yeah. Thank you for that, Chief. Brother Antonio says, I imagine in a functional homestead, the woman would also be in tune enough to determine what the home they are managing needs. Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, seeking clarity, right? Because being attuned to the needs of her community, her first being her family. So for sure. And Chief Yuya says, right, you got it, Ema Precious. The foundations are I am man and you are woman. You'll come into my family and we'll assist each other in fulfilling our divine purpose within the guidelines of the law. Right. So ultimately, as long as we know what the law is and we're abiding in it, we should be good.
Hold on 1 second, Ema Precious. I'm gonna try something. It's still a little crackly.
Yeah, you're still
Yeah.
like a machine. Like, uh-oh.
Is that better?
What did I
No.
do? Why'd you get rid of me? No, I'm joking. No, it's still not better. I'll just keep reading through the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ima Kuya said, good point, Ima. About it is important to be known. Chief says, those bangles are jingling, baby. Baby. I didn't tell her about those bracelets. Not bracelets, too. They're just not quite as
That's
the
not
jingle. Let's
me. It's the static. It sounds like bangles. It sounds like somebody's crunching in the
you better
background.
stop
Like
talking. We're about to end this live. You better stop talking.
it's not
Okay.
me.
Oh, they're saying it's mine.
Yes, it's not me.
Oh,
Maybe switch. Okay. She'll be back. All right. So I'm just gonna keep going, and she'll be back. And those bangles are jingling. Yes. The recruitment may also be to cover younger sisters to prepare them for courtship to another brother's homestead. My consort, HR manager, will manage my affairs, including new job placement when needed. When I said that, I wasn't thinking about they would prepare her for another man's, but I wonder, like, um, shouldn't your HR team be recruiting for your own homestead? Um, if the women in the community have that mechanism, right, where they can guide junior sisters, and that's right. But I would think, and someone correct me, I think that all of those in your own homestead are recruiting for your homestead and training for your homestead, not for another's homestead. And maybe yes, there's some hierarchy when everybody's in the community at large, but within the home, everything is for that homestead. Um, Even Precious, you sounded like the Prince of Darkness. Say something.
I read that. I was the crunchy one. I thought it was you. My
No,
bad.
I'm like somebody is. I was like, is somebody eating Doritos?
I promise I'm not. But
Like
okay. Um. Oh, see. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Right. You infected my
it's
speaker.
bad.
Okay.
What? No,
Deidre, that was you. You know
that's
what?
my sound coming through on yours.
It's you. Because it just started again.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know. We might be done. We might be
Yeah,
done.
I like how you can hear reverberation. I think my voice is coming through on your computer. No? Okay. All right. So yes, now I hear it when you unmute. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? No? Why can't you hear me?
I can hear you, but it sounds really distorted. And I don't know if I
I,
also sound
it,
distorted.
you sound distorted, but you sound distorted on the stream. I think you
So maybe we should just end the live.
yeah, because it's not fixed. How about I'll read the last comments. I'll read the last comment. Um, Somebody says shh, they're listening. Maybe that's it. Because she said, wouldn't that depend on the nature in which that woman is under that homestead? She could be there just for covering and could receive the proper training. She needs to go into her compliments homestead. True, because we do have a part, like maybe there could be a junior sister, but they're not necessarily there. Yes, that is correct. Yes, that is I think that is in family, in the family structure, actually. So yes, that's true. Brother Lowe says, okay, so because of all the business analogies, do you meet with your homestead quarterly and such for planning and strategy and actions on the regular? Well, there's check-ins daily, right? The daily check-ins would have started in courtship. That's like the second in like one of the second paragraph, or it's some paragraphs down, when we talk about communication and courtship, daily check-ins are a part of them. So like you actually are having daily check-ins, but if that's your household, right? um planning and strategy. And then maybe you would, if you have more than one consort, maybe every now and again you'll want to have weekly or bi-weekly kind of check-ins with everyone, so that everyone can hear what's happening in parts of the cipher, and they can kind of understand like why what they're doing is important, and to also kind of keep them like on the ball, because you can see from this team meeting, right, that if you're slacking, how it may affect what's happening in the full like machine. You're a gear in the machine, and so if you are falling off, that rusty wheel, that rusty gear, the whole machine could break down, right? But if you're good, if the president CEO is also on it, then that gear can be easily replaced. Just saying. Chief says, oh goodness. I've said it before, I will say it again. If a woman cares about her man's mission, she will strive to multiply the house by all means. They rarely do. Let that be a lesson. I'm going to do a live in my channel. Y'all shucking and jiving. Oh, are you going to take... Okay. Somebody check under the table. It's better on our end with Sister Deidre Reeves. Okay, yeah, I think it was you. They folding up lunch. Yeah, it sounds good. Okay, maybe we should end it, because say something. You my precious.
Okay.
It's still chips. All right, so we're gonna end the live. Give thanks for joining us about marriage. And really think about like what's in your contract, and that your contract is with Yahweh Shad, is with your mate that you're creating a union with, and also with the community. Yeah, y'all come over to the Cool Kids Day. Okay, you know what, everybody, you can go to Chief Yuya's channel and we'll talk more about marriage. Peace, everyone. Shabbat shalom.